Has it started rolling?
Yes.
Are you serious?
Yes. Hi, my name is Chad Tashera. I'm studying architecture at UJ first year. The favorite subject is definitely design. I think my favorite lecturer has to be Alexandra. I love her. She always just gives such great feedback. Always great concepts, always great designs, always great tips. She's really like made the process great. It does. I would like longer hours in studio. I think everyone wants that. It's just so that we can have a space where we're just dedicated to work and just produce as much and as best as we possibly can. I haven't had the issue of not being able to have a crit or reach a tutor, so I don't think that there's an issue. Personally, I haven't found that there's an issue.
My name is Nicole Mikalik and I'm studying architecture first year. My favorite subject has to be presentation because it's so free and you just learn how to draw. And my favorite lecturer has to be Alexandra. She's so open-minded and she takes all your ideas in. I think if we had some sort of workshop with lots of space, because in studios sometimes it gets cramped, everyone is taking like 5 tables at a time, and I think if we had a workshop where we had separate divisions and it had order, that would really help. Tadao Ando, I think he's a really good architect. I like how he plays with lights, and I try to play with lights in my design as well.
Hi, my name is Alexi Rodikanakis, and I am studying first year degree in architecture. Well, I've enjoyed the prospect of being an architect from quite an early age, but rather oddly I made the choice to go into medicine, spent a year studying medicine, and decided it wasn't for me, a tad dry, frankly. Yes.
What has been your favourite moment so far this year?
I think that I'd have to link it to a specific project, if that's all right. It was a lightbox project that we did in design. And I think it made me realise the ethos that the faculty sort of drives. And it was the freedom that I was given in both challenging the brief and exploring my own abilities without it really impacting the way I was marked. Yes, I think that was probably the best. Well, I have to say that this has been a little bit of an issue this year. It seems as though the faculty has been a little bit spread thin, but in the way that our tutors and our lecturers have functioned, they have tried to make the best of the situation, and I think that it shows. It shows in the standard of the way we're educated. I think that prior to going into the Fetus project, I would not have viewed architecture as something that was as heavily socially responsive in a sort of community sense. I think that we all go into architecture feeling the ivory tower perspective of delegating everything and controlling a landscape without its impact on the people. But I think that this project really changed my perception of that, how important it is to engage with the community and respond to the issues that they are facing in their everyday lives, as opposed to building an edifice for creative acclaim. Yes. That space is an issue. You know, I think that it would be nice to have a little bit more space, and I know that is on the cards. Other than that, I think that from my current experience, things are reasonably good. Excellent.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jennifer Sibanda. I'm studying architecture 3rd year diploma. I've always liked to draw. Drawing was my thing, and I was a creative child. So I wanted something in the creative industry. So I decided that I'll take architecture because I can make a difference with my creativity and also make a difference in how people live in better houses that are creative. It has definitely made me respect it more. Definitely in first year I underestimated it. I thought it was just going to be this easy drawing, taking pictures, and it was going to be a nice time. But It is a very challenging course, but it has made me disciplined as well. I have more understanding of buildings and structures, and I feel like I'm more mature now because of this course, because it is very challenging. In the next 10 years, I do want to make an impact in society, especially be a very good influence on young black girls, because as a black female practicing architect, I would like to show them that it can be done. Also staying true to my roots as well. I don't want to become this bougie person that is unrelatable. So I want to make an impact to the people in my society, basically, because of the color of my skin. I mean, it's improving now. In my third year, there's been a lot of changes. I can see there's a lot of improvement in terms of the 3D printers and in terms of the space as well, and the introduction of the electives. So in terms of the learning process, it is improving, but they could be more. They could be done. So currently, yes, I mean, I'm here in third year, but there could be room for improvement.
And what would that improvement be?
Maybe more spaces for our model building materials. It would be nice to have workshops where we could sit and build our models, because you feed off of other people's energy very well in terms of creativity. I learned in the office, when we sit all in one space, we communicate and we feed off of each other's energy. So in terms of that, more facilities to build our models for us as students to interact. Instead of having first year studio, third year studio, second year studio, it must be an interactive space where we can learn from each other. I think that will help. Definitely. I really enjoyed the elective system because it wasn't just third years in one group. I mean, I'm so used to my third year colleagues that I learned a lot actually from my second years, and that the way that they think. You'd be surprised that their level of thinking has gone high. It's creative, crazy. So I enjoyed the elective system. I learned a lot. I think there is. I appreciate the fact that there are dedicated days to have one-on-one crit sessions with your lectures, as well as master students. So it's on one day it's your lectures, and then the next day it's the master students. So it's very good that we have one-on-one crit sessions, and it takes long. So there are dedicated days and time slots for our crit sessions. So that is very good. Like I mentioned, the elective system was a success for me. That elective system way of learning. So you choose what you want to learn, because we don't thrive in everything that is presented to us. So in terms of me choosing what I want to learn, I think that was very great. So they could follow the elective system way of learning for us to thrive as students, because we're not all interested in the same thing. And in terms of the facilities as well, but I think that it is improving, so we're on the right track. And I remember in first year we did a project where we were mixed with interior design students, multimedia students, fashion students. That also opened my eyes as well, because when you're in a space where you're with so many creative people, it opens your mind to think differently, and it helps you. So definitely the workshops should have different parts as well, like photography and model building skills and so forth. It will help us big time.
So my name is Tyron Stefan, and I'm studying third year national diploma. So I've always had an interest in building things and making things and how things work, systems, and basically that. So coming off of the fact that I liked building things and being creative and that, what I've learned is how to structure it and how to make it something believable and something buildable, and making it real basically from my imagination, I would say. So over the 3 years, it's just been a refinement process, and refining how I get to that point where it is real. And yeah, I would say to a certain extent they do. We have a CAD lab, and I haven't quite yet used the 3D printers, but I think that could be useful. But I think they could be more, helpful. Maybe a laser cutter, or a studio where we could actually have space to build models and get materials from on site. So yeah, I think so, yeah, especially in our year. I think they've made efforts, a lot of effort to help us and make extra time. I mean, I can see any of my lecturers anytime. they're quite helpful and understanding. And they do give us good tips with our designs, and yeah. In 5 years' time, I would see myself getting to a point where I can put together a project that is able to be built and make an impact in real society. I am quite realistic, so 5 years wouldn't necessarily mean I'm an established architect or whatever. In 5 years, I'm only really going to have graduated in that. So in 5 years, yeah, it would just be able to put a project together that's realistic and believable, and yeah, and then maybe in 10 years' time, I would see myself as someone that's successful and understands like how to really, sell something and be an architect. I think a facility for like building models and that, like where we can buy materials for our models, cut it there, build it. Because right now we have to like go far away to get materials, and then there isn't really something that we can use to cut it. So yeah, I think that would better.
Right. My name is Sandile Mhlungu. I'm studying architecture. I'm a 4th year BTech applied design student. Ideally, it's actually stemmed from me drawing paintings while I think I was about 9 years old. So I actually entered a competition where I went against grown-up artists. So that kind of sparked it in a sense, and I really didn't know that that's where I'd go into it. And when it came to matric in terms of my result, which is technical drawing, that was one of the highest marks that I had. So then I looked into that, and then that's how I found myself. We actually in 3rd year went to Lesotho. That's basically the traveling part actually was exciting, that we traveled and we saw different types of architecture, not just only in South Africa. Our mind was a bit broad, and we could look outside of the space that we're in, looked out of that space that we generally always find ourselves in a sense. Yeah. Roller coaster, between 1st and 3rd year, it was just a thing of, am I going to continue? Am I not going to continue? But it just deals with a lot of emotional and also sort of like, in a sense, like you really are not final about architecture. I believe that architecture is not final. It's not something that's final. It's continuous. So it obviously changes over the time. But then that change that you experience is obviously the architecture. So I feel like it made me kind of like reject it and then bring it back. But at the same time, that also helps you to actually find out who you are within architecture. I mean, in terms of us as being architects, our most strongest point is us having like a space for you creating a model. So this model that you create is just not generally just on computer. I know there's computer facilities, but having a space where you can create this thing that so that you understand what you're designing. So design and construction are in one. So if you can have a space where you can create this particular thing and make it look, giving us those facilities to sort of build that sort of infrastructure of what you're actually designing. So like tools and space for us to actually create that. It's not at the same level, but I've seen that there's an actual sort of a little change from the tutors that have graduated in a sense. So they're trying to instill that you can see. The identity of that you can actually see. But before I came to 4th year, you couldn't see that. Like it was generally just one sort of layer. I mean, they are trying to bring in females, and they're also trying to bring in black sort of lecturers in that sense. So I believe if they would push that even more further, they'd understand from a black student to a white student in that sense. Like it would be more easier in that way. I generally love 2 things, which is architecture and photography. So I studied drafting before I came here, and I didn't understand the 3-point perspective in drafting, but I started drawing a building which I envisioned to say in the next few years I would like to have that, and that building was generally what I'm in right now, where you find media, fashion, and photography and architecture all in that building. So you find offices, spaces, so it's a multi-purpose building. So within that, I really would love to accomplish me designing that actual building and it becoming maybe even in a different sort of country, that same sort of identity, you know. So I sort of find my own architecture, which it might be in terms of community or commercial. So I'd really love for that, you know, in the next 10 years to happen. There should be, in coordinates with the student, there should be communicating a lot with them, rather have a lot of meetings, less kumbaya meetings, like no talking of, oh, this happened, this happened. If this happened, what is the change? So you take that information and you make a change. So there's communication and connection with the student, so that it becomes, you know, something that, you know, generally just happens, instead of just thinking that this is what the student wants. Talk to the student, connect with the student, understand, okay, fine, this is what the issue is. How can we, you know, because that's what they teach us in architecture. You basically are an architect. You come with a solution and you also come with a problem. How can you take those two things and create a solution from that problem, or a problem from that solution? So generally that back to forth type of identity.
Okay, my name is Sibusiso Mwango. I'm doing BTech at the Department of Architecture. Previously I wanted to do architecture from like high school. So it's something, I think I got it started all from drawing Dragon Ball Z, you know, and then when I started doing EGD, I realized I can actually take my mind and this thing can, you know, I can actually bring my mind to paper and this thing can be built, you know. And so in grade 10 when we were choosing subjects, it was either civil engineering or architecture. And then physics, physics drama in high school, so architecture was my only choice. But I wanted to do it, you know, from the get-go. I'd say I was born for it, you know. Amazing, huh? Amazing. I'll say in first year, you know, when we got here, you know, there's a lot of stuff we didn't know. But the nice thing, what we liked personally about my first year was that it was not about what you can do, but what did you learn, you know. So I remember when we first came, we knew nothing about rendering. Some people didn't even know how to draw, some people didn't even know how to work, you know. And the mark at the end was based on you learned more than other students, you know, hence your mark was higher, you know. So I like that part about it. So the idea that it was no longer about you already went to a school that is architecture orientated, so you have an advantage. So everyone was at the same level, and when you're tested at the end, it was based on how much you learned. Yeah, so I'll say yes. I mean, the tutors, some stay on campus. You know, I know Liaho, you know, Liaho got fed up with me because I'd go to her room on Saturday, you know, so else she'd see me, she'd run away. So, yeah, and in masters, you know, you find Megan, you know, you catch her. I remember one time I caught Megan as she was stepping out of father, grabbed her, you know, please can I crit? You know, we sat down there at the, you know that place, that other place. She doesn't like it. Yeah, so we sat there, we critted, and then, you know, we smelled something funny, and then disappear. So you always get there, you know, lectures are always there, you know. Yeah, even the ones with the companies are actually still there. So I would say, yeah, you can always find them every time. My goodness. Okay, not big, massive, you know. 5 to 10 years, you know, to be honest with you, you know, I believe, you know, because here, you know, architecture actually teaches you to really stretch your mind, you know, and hence a lot of students, you know, it's when they come out, it's not only architecture that they do, but a lot of stuff, you know. So architecture becomes like a stepping stone to you being an actual designer, not just an architect, you know. So it's beyond, you know. So with me, you know, because of the time, the pressure that was put on me in terms of work and what I had to do, I like talking.
My name is Melissa, and I tutor third-year design students. Challenging at times, same as a lecturer, where they would engage within the crit, but then present work that doesn't really reflect as if they have listened at any point in that crit. I found the communication quite well. It was always on an email or WhatsApp platform. I found that we communicated well in class as well, where I was to suggest something and he would take it on board. So it was very engaging for me to see a gap and he would jump on it and think, okay, cool, let's try something new. I found that the students don't necessarily have a space that's dedicated to them, which I found quite problematic. The same with pin-ups. There was sometimes where the pin-ups were very scattered and there wasn't a system of engagement with the students. I think it would also be quite nice if there was more feedback from the students in a way which us as lecturers or tutors can then adapt into explaining to them what it is that we think. So I think the feedback process is lacking at the moment, and I think that we can really do something with that. Maybe I don't know how you would approach it, but for them to kind of lead in a way as well, not just the lecturer to student engagement, so where it's the other way as well. Yes, I think my main point would be that communication, that vice versa contribution, or where either party brings something to the table and it can be discussed and formed and manipulated in the way that it's best for the unit or the elective or for the class. I also think that students need to engage a little bit more when there are these platforms provided. I found that I needed to be the buffer between the students and the lecturer, and I found when trying to engage with the students and helping them in a light-hearted manner, it really worked well, where you are not an external lecturer also putting pressure on them for not delivering, but when you can really see the greatness or the potential in their projects and highlight those instances which the lecturers are talking about, but really make it clear to them. I think that's something great for a tutor.
My name is Jessica. I am a undergraduate from the Department of Architecture at UJ. I completed my postgrad at WITS, and I'm currently employed at a architecture and urban design practice in Johannesburg called Ludwig Hansen Architects and Urban Designers. Yes, extremely fair and unbiased. Students were all treated equally, and I believe it was a very fair adjudication process up to now. I feel like the students are all at a very high design capacity, so students are obviously very creatively stimulated in this faculty, and overall the work speaks to that. It's creatively very strong, so yeah, it's good work. So specific to the course that I'm moderating, which is Landscapes of Worship, I felt that it was an interesting, unconventional and very challenging brief, open for interpretation, which was wonderful because students weren't pigeonholed into conforming to a single design, and there was a lot of opportunity which was taken advantage of to hone in on different aspects of the project brief, the site, the theory behind it. So there was a good diversity in response. This is a fairly young program. I imagine it's met with a fair amount of criticism. And I think looking at the group of work, the body of work as a collective today, I could only recommend that students get prompted to take a bit more time in the more rudimental paper stages of a design and drawing and model building before that translation happens onto computer, or rather that it's continuously a parallel process, so that it's not a creative process that stops the moment that it gets translated into a computer, and that it actually either gets done in parallel or design development gets extended without using digital means. It's a difficult question because the department has grown immensely since my days of studying here, and the diversity in program and activity has been phenomenal. I think refining the new unit system based on feedback and testing and trials would, my only recommendation would be perhaps that third year students at this exit level are encouraged to seek a working experience before entering into the GSA, so that they can hone in on that office experience, but that's more on a policy or academic paper trail kind of way. But I think the school overall has been really ambitious and quite successful in its ventures in curating like pretty much everything.
Hi, my name is Leah Khomadumo, and I teach first year design, first year history, second year design, presentation and sustainable design. And I basically coordinate second year, and I just finished my master's, so technically I still see myself in the process of learning more than teaching actually. I think the current body of lecturers are quite amazing in the sense that they're very supportive, very thoughtful, and we also learn from each other. We bounce ideas off each other, whether formally and informally, and I think I appreciate even the more informal bits. We have, these amazing conversations at random points or random times that I appreciate. I think my first one is to make professorship in 2 years, 2 years to 3 years. 1. 2 is to really to rewrite the curriculum of design in the African context. I think for me, I want to recurriculate, if there's such a word, because I think that we take it for granted that actually our curriculums are not geared towards African cities. So that is my ultimate goal.